Hello, good morning. I'm actually on time to a live that I have scheduled. Can you believe it? I don't think it's ever happened ever before. Also, the super dark at the bottom of my coffee. What's that all about? Oh, I'm so excited for today's book club because it's our inaugural book club, which is already exciting because we've never done this before. I said we were going to do it last year and we never did. And I have literally no idea how this is going to go. I can't explain to you how woefully unprepared I am, but I'm hoping you've all listened to or read the book and we can go over some points and talk about like what we enjoyed, what we didn't enjoy, and what we kind of took away from it. So I'll wait for a few moments for people to join. I obviously have read this book before several times. I do think it's such a fantastic book to listen to at the beginning of the year. I like to go back to it when I feel like I need a reset, and so obviously it makes sense for January time. But it does, I think it put a lot of people off the name The Year of Yes. A couple of people said, I didn't want to listen to the first book because I'm not in a place where I want to say yes to everything. And that's not really what the book was about. It was more about her experience and her journey in that and what she learned in that experience. It's not about you have to say yes to everything for a year. It's just that she did that and this is what happened. Good morning, Calvin. Good morning. So, right, I'm going to kick off with my favourite part of the book, which is when she gets to the part about feeling. This was another issue. I didn't want it to be like really, really parent-centric. But for me, obviously, I looked at it, a lot of the book through the eyes of a parent because she was talking about where her priorities were, what she was making time for. She didn't have time for this, she didn't have time for that. And how much time you really needed to dedicate to things to feel like that was like ticked off. And she talked midway through the book about other parents, and she'd said that she was never going to be the home baking mom or the like DIY costume mom, and that one of her, I think it was her showrunner, one of her showrunners was gluing gems onto a cape or something. And she was like, why are you doing this? And she realised it was because she enjoyed it. And I think it's so easy for parents to get caught up in that comparison of, oh, I'm not doing very well because these people do these things with their children, you know, they go on hikes with their children or they do this with their children. That's because they enjoy doing those things with or without those children. And so I remember from way back when I first listened to it, was probably like 5 years ago, maybe longer. That was a massive takeaway for me. And it really helped me reframe my parenting versus someone else's parenting, because I am a crafty mom. I am someone who, I like to play video games with my kids. I like to do those things because that's stuff I like to do. I like to play board games because I like to play board games. If you don't like playing board games and you don't play board games with your kid, you're not a terrible person because someone else does. They're not like making themselves do something they hate. It just so happens the thing they do the most often with their child is probably something they enjoy doing. Baking, crafting, whatever it might be. Exercise. No, thank you. So that was a major standout for me. That and the point that she kept making throughout the book, which was the first only different, in that she was the first only different in her house, and however it is in that instance, in the job that she'd had, whereas there were other people in her house that were the FOD of a different path. And that you may be the FOD of your family in one particular way, and basically you're leading the way and you're showing them how to be. And I really liked that as well, because I thought that could translate to any kind of career, any kind of family, any kind of personal setup. You could be the first person in your family to be doing something differently, and that can be a challenge. And I really enjoyed that point that she was making. I also do have a quote from right at the beginning of the book up on my vision board, which I showed when I did that vision board video, that says, my destiny rides squarely on the back of my imagination. And that is a quote to live by, but especially for someone who is literally writing her own future. So I got some talking points from Oprah. It felt like the right place to go. I think some of it will be relevant, some of it less so because it's not fiction. But I thought I would ask first of all, what was your favourite part of the book? This is a strange thing to do online when there's nobody actually here. But which part of it did it, like, what resonated with you? What actually stuck out as, this is something that I'll remember, you know? I do think that when we do the next book, which by the way will be Matt Haig, Midnight Library, I'm going to have to take, because I was reading this book like here, there and everywhere. Sometimes I was working, I was listening to it. Sometimes I was in the car. Sometimes I was cooking, which is the beauty of an audiobook. But I do think that next time I do this, I'm going to try to do it in a place where I know I have space to write notes. So if I'm at my desk, for example, if something comes up, I know I can write something down. Whereas if I'm in my car, less so. Because there were definitely parts during the book that I thought, oh, I want to remember that to talk about. And I'll never remember because I didn't write down. And that's just who I am. But especially if we're going to do it this way, which obviously is new, I think I need those notes. And also, for those of you who are struggling with the favourite part of the book, your least favourite part of the book, or the scene that stuck out with you the most. There's another question. Did you race to the end, or was it more of a slow burn? I know that this time, and when I tend to reread something, I will read it here, there and everywhere. But the first time I listened to this book, it was all at once. I think I listened to it all in one day. It was I just couldn't stop listening to her. Her voice is so engaging. It is like listening to one of the characters on Grey's Anatomy, Christina Yang specifically. Okay, Connie said, the parenting section and just saying yes for what's probably going to be 15 minutes at a time but makes so much difference. Yes. There was a part of the book where she said, that's 100% something that I would have mentioned had I remembered it. And when I listened to it for the first time, I remember talking to someone on direct messages about this, and it was something that they said to me as well. And she says, wanna play. And it's your child coming up to you and saying, wanna play? At the most inopportune moment. You are clearly not in a position where you can play. She was in a ball gown. She was getting ready to go to a big event. Wanna play? And sitting and playing for 15 minutes is saying yes to that child. It's what they'll remember. They'll remember that mum said, yeah, like Mila would say, do you want to play this video game? Or do you want to play Monopoly? Or do you want to play, Monopoly's not a 50-minute game, but you know what I'm saying? Do you want to play? Say yes. It probably won't be that long, like 15 minutes, and then you can go and do the thing that you had to go and do. But you're not always saying no to them, and they'll remember those moments of mum sat down with me and played, rather than mum was always saying no. And that was great as well. And also she did talk about that from a teenager's perspective as well, that the teenager would come and sit on her bed and talk to her. And that is my experience also. Obviously, Ella's not going to come downstairs and say, do you want to play a game? But you know when they need something, you know when they need your attention, and you should be mindful and recognising that and giving it to them. It's not going to be an hour. If you're in the middle of something, you can break off and give them 10-15 minutes, and everybody feels good about that situation, you know? I completely agree. I liked that bit too. Did you reread any passages? If so, which ones? So again, that I will always go back to certain chapters of this book that are parenting based when I feel like I need to pick me up. Would you read another book by this author? I absolutely would. She hasn't written anymore. She just keeps writing TV. Every time I go back to reread this and I go, oh, has she written anything else in the meantime? No, she hasn't. This was a total one-off. And I would love to read more by Shonda Rhimes, but I just don't think that's on the cards, or at least for now. Maybe in the future, maybe she'll do a full-on autobiography, but I think this is kind of as close as you're going to get. Did reading the book impact your mood? If yes, how so? I think it was uplifting. I don't know about you guys, but I think it made me feel hopeful. It made me feel like it's really empowering, but not in a way that feels, like if you listen to something that is, I don't know if you would, but if you listen to like some self-help books are a bit like, you've got to get out and do this. You've got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't that. This was a woman who was struggling. She had an amazing career, but she was struggling with her day-to-day stuff. It wasn't easy. And yet she felt so like powerful. And that, I would say it was massively uplifting for me, but also just like in a realistic way. Did this book remind you of any other books? It really didn't. I've listened to a lot of self-helpy stuff and it didn't at all. Yes. I listened to the book on Audible and I really enjoyed hearing the speeches. I give talks for work and I liked her approach of just saying yes to it. The speeches were so fantastic. And again, that's where Audible or any kind of audiobook, wherever you're listening to the audiobooks, I love this kind of book in audio. I wasn't into any kind of fiction as an audiobook. I was still listening to those, or rather I was still reading those very occasionally, actually reading them. Although I have since listened to some fiction that's been fantastic audio. Totally depends on the narrator. But when someone has read something that they have written and they feel really passionate about, it means so much more to hear them say it out loud. And then to include those speeches, which were actual live speeches. They're not reread, they are the speeches of the moment. The speech she gave for the Dartmouth commencement was outstanding. When she said, this is not about you. You think this is your day. This is your parents' day. They've got you to this point in your life and this is like their freedom day. So much about those speeches that were so fantastic. And as you said, it's the thing of saying yes when she could have said no. Definitely made me feel good. I also want to gift it to a few female friends who I know would benefit from the book if they only said yes to taking the time to read it. Well, indeed. And this is, again, listen to it in the car, listen to it in the bath, listen to it while you're cooking, whatever. That's why an audiobook is so great. There's just no reason not to read it, to listen to it, to whatever. I also have books like this on in the car while I'm with the kids. And sometimes I will pick and choose chapters of something that I've already listened to put on because we're not actively listening to it, but it's there. And it might be something that I think someone needs to hear, or something that I just generally think is like great advice for life. I will intentionally choose certain portions of something or rewind and play that when I get in the car, just because I think it's, you're passively taking it in, but it's really, really useful. And people can be so closed off from, me included, people can be so closed off from listening to things and from opening up to something new and being like, oh, even TV shows, watch this, it's great. Oh, I don't want to listen. I just want to watch the same things that I always watch. It's the same deal. And especially with something like this, it feels a bit too self-helpy for some people. And it's really, really not. It has that in there, but it's sneakier than that. It doesn't feel self-helpy, but it is self-improvement. It is. Who do you most want to read this book was the next question. So obviously we have lots of people. But I do just think people who are like in a rut, people who are stuck in a moment and they can't get out of it. They're stuck in a moment and they're just like stagnant, I think it would help them move forward. How did it impact you? Do you think you'll remember it in a few months or a few years? Yes, of course. I've listened to it again and again and I tell loads and loads of people about it. I'm facing a really difficult year with some totally life-changing medical stuff. It's out of my control. Finding the yes in it is scary, but it makes me feel like I'm a little more in control. Yes, I feel totally the same way about anything like that. You want to find a way that you can, even when sometimes someone says, you're going to have to wait for this, then almost I want to say, right, well, I don't, forget it, because you want to take control of the thing. I can't imagine your situation, but I do think the way that she framed the yes throughout the book as well is interesting, because it wasn't always a yes. So she said she was talking a lot about weight loss, and the veal practice was interesting. She talked about how she didn't want to lose weight because she enjoyed the veal practice, which was basically making herself as comfortable as possible and eating. And she said that she'd been saying yes to staying that way and that she needed to say yes to change. So it's not necessarily like you can say yes to anything. You can say yes to not doing this anymore because you're going to say yes to, it's almost like saying no, but you're not, because you're saying yes to changing your behavior. So you can still yes it, even if it's a no. Did this book make you want to explore the subject matter more? I think this was one of my gateway self-improvement books. I think I listened to this and then I was like, I want more about like self-awareness and why I am the way that I am and all of that stuff. So I would agree that actually was the case for me. I love the idea of going back to the book time and time again. I feel like it would be great to go back to when you're feeling a bit blah. Completely. It says here, will you sorry, I've completely lost the question that I was reading. The question was, oh, here we go. What were your impressions of the author's style? Did you find the book easy to read or a slog? So I found the very, very first couple of chapters, I was like, go. It was super, super quick. And I thought, you know what? I might listen to this all at once again. And then it kind of got to a point where it was like a bit into the weeds and I took a break and then I was listening to it in pieces. I would say the first few chapters are so well put together because they're not difficult. They really just like slide you right into, oh, I'm in. I'm super engaging. I'm really, really interested in this. And then by the time it gets to the like heavier stuff or the stuff that's a bit, not a slog, but you know, stuff that's a little bit slower going, you're already in. You already want to know how this goes and you want to know more about this woman's life. I mean, the voice, her reading it, I think was massive. I think anybody else reading it would not have been as good. Oh, what did you Google while reading the book? That's such a fantastic question. I'm going to go back to these questions for the next one. I think I probably Googled, I know for a fact I Googled what she looked like before and after her weight loss. I know I Googled that. Because she's not someone that you have in your mind of this is what she looks like. And I've obviously Googled her before, so I knew, but I was just like, what are we talking about? Because she's talking about this massive change. And so you want a visual. So I know I Googled that. And I Googled some of the people that she talked about. I Googled the commencement speeches because I listened to some of the speeches separately. But otherwise, it wasn't like something that I Googled like, I don't understand this. It was more curiosity. Oh, I realise these have been separated into non-fiction and fiction. Of all the information presented in the book, what has stayed with you the most? I think we've got to that already. And did you agree with the author's conclusions and where did you deviate? Yeah, completely. Her year of yes was so, I think her conclusion portion, her year of yes was started by her sister saying something to her that was just triggered a response. And her sister didn't even acknowledge that response. I mean, she didn't acknowledge the response until so many months later or weeks later or whatever. I always do have the moment of whenever I think of that book at Christmas, I think she said she was lying on the sofa staring up at the Christmas tree. And whenever I'm putting my Christmas tree up, I think of that. And I think of her. It's so weird, isn't it? What sticks with you? But the conclusion that her sister had said this thing that triggered this massive change in her life. And then the following Thanksgiving, she thanked her and explained what happened. And her sister was like, I didn't do anything. Like, you did all of this. I did nothing. And so the conclusion, of course, was that it was within her the whole time. And she just needed a push. She just needed a reason. And that any of us can change our lives at any point. You don't need someone else's permission to change your life. Oh, Scandal and the actresses she mentions. I'm now watching Scandal. I flipping love Scandal. Now, I was seriously considering going back to rewatching Scandal recently because I just love it so much. But I'm actually going back to the Gilmore Girls from the very beginning. Oh, I need to move my thing. You've been talking about this book for ages, but when you mentioned mum guilt, as a new mum, I had to read it. It makes me feel a lot better. Every mum is in the same boat, even someone as amazing as her. Totally, but also mum guilt is different for each person, and you are comparing yourself to a completely different person who likes different things, who has a different life. We just can't do that. It doesn't work. I'm definitely interested in keeping Audible now. Was never interested in it before, but hearing her voice was brill, almost like chatting with a friend. Totally. Also, this is not an ad for Audible. I think that at this point, the few of you that are actually joining me have either joined it or you haven't joined it, so it's not an ad. But I was talking to Lee about this yesterday, and they've made it different now. So it used to be that you pay whatever it is, £7 a month, and you get your book. And once you stop subscribing to Audible, you still get those books. You purchase them. They're yours forever. But they've changed the subscription now, so you actually have loads of books included. And I'm saying this because I was talking to someone on Instagram the other day, and they didn't know. They, like me, had been subscribed for ages, and they didn't know this had changed. There are now loads of books that are just available for free with your subscription that you don't have to use your credits on. Amazing. The next book that I've chosen, the Matt Haig Midnight Library, that is included. I don't think it's in America, but in the US. Don't think it's in the US, but in the UK, the Matt Haig Midnight Library book is included in the subscription. So you don't have to use a credit to get that. And there are a few other books that I love that are included. So again, I think I'm going to put a big list up on my site. I'm gonna redo my site today. Today, that is my challenge, because I have my new stuff going to be launching at the end of the week, hopefully. And I need to do some other stuff. And I am kind of blogging sporadically, and I just want to change the site so you can actually see where everything is. And one of those things is the book club. So I want to have one place where you can see this is the book that we're reading right now. This is a place where maybe you can leave comments about that book. These are the books that everyone's recommended. These are my favorite books, and I'll have all of those on the site so you can check it out. Especially if you've got Audible, I'll make a note of what is available for free via that subscription, because I love audiobooks so much. We just literally started listening to Rachel Dratch, Girl Walks Into a Bar yesterday again, which is one of my favourite autobiographies. Again, about someone who is a celebrity, but you wouldn't, it's a celebrity, but doesn't get that much work, and how does that work? And you know who she is, but she's not in a lot of stuff, and what happened to her. It's really, really interesting. Anyway, enough about Audible. Does anybody else have any more thoughts for this month's book? I do think we need a slightly more formal way of doing this for next month. I would be happy for anybody else to suggest anything, because this is not my wheelhouse. I know how to talk. I don't know how to lead a group. Have you looked into Goodreads? I'm sure they used to do a book club feature where it was a message board type of thing. I haven't, but I think it would be good to have one area, and since you'll be able to see this is the book that we're listening to, I think I can set that up on my site anyway, since it's there. I paid to host this site, I may as well use it. I literally am just paying a monthly subscription to this hosting thing to just keep old blog posts, so I may as well actually use it to do something useful, productive. I think I should have made notes too, because I can't remember anything. Yes, exactly. I think probably that will be what I want to do for the next one. For this one, I was like, let's see how many people want to do it. Let's see, because I know I've listened to this before. We can chat about anything, but I did need notes. And I had a few notes of specific things that I wanted to talk about, but we breezed those over pretty quickly. And then some of you brought up some of my favourite moments as well. But I think if we get into a fiction, particularly, that's going to be more interesting, because that's not normally what I listen to. So I will make some notes for next time. Maybe we'll come up with some kind of format. So if everyone fills in a certain sheet like let's say we've got like a form or something, if you all fill in some talking points, then when we come to the video, we'll all have something to talk about on each particular, maybe that's useful. I'll think about it, but Matt Haig Midnight Library is the one we're going to do next month. It will be, let me open my calendar, February. The last Sunday of February is the 27th. So we will be here at 10:30 a.m. on Sunday the 27th to talk about Matt Haig's Midnight Library. I've got HP Lovecraft Audible. That goes on for 51 hours and 40 minutes. What's HP Lovecraft? I really did read that as Harry Potter. HP Lovecraft. I listened to, I think Michelle Obama was the, oh, holy moly. Horror writer, not for me. Michelle Obama's book was the longest, I think. Let me see how long that one was. 19 hours and 3 minutes. That's the longest one I think I've listened to. That was fantastic though. There is a dog that's not very happy. Right, so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna rejig the website today, and we will come back for a more formal, more organised chat next month. But in the meantime, if anybody wants to talk about this book, DM me on Instagram. I might set up a little chat area on the site where we can talk later about the books as we think of things, or that you can submit stuff. I'm going to see what I can do. I'm very all of a sudden inspired by that. But yeah, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining for the first month. I am committed to this. So even by December, if there are only 3 of you, I'll still be doing it. It's going to be a fun thing. It's going to be a good motivator for me to listen to 12 books. No, Connie. H.P. Lovecraft does not sound like my vibe at all. Game of Thrones was rough going for me. Right, I'm going to go. I need something other than coffee, a big drink of water. Hopefully you join me again next month. And I will see you guys on Wednesday for a completely different beauty themed video.